race which is so great as the Volvo Ocean Race. And all the best sailors want to be here, and I want to fight against the best.
Yeah, this race is probably the most epic thing you can do as a sailor.
I don't know why you do this race if you didn't know what you were getting yourself into.
Well, it's got to be one of the most extreme sporting events in the world.
It's your ultimate race, ultimate competition. There is no better race.
You have to be pushing 100% of the time.
The race destroy you, destroy your body, destroy your brain. You get exhausted, but you can't give up, you have to push again.
I mean, it always goes through your mind that things could go terribly wrong.
It's on the edge, it's all under control, but when it just tips over the balance, it can go horribly wrong.
It's a game, but it's a dangerous game.
Now watch him and don't take your eyes off him.
I have a man overboard situation.
You know, I will regret doing this race for the rest of my life.
It's race day, Alicante, Spain, and 7 international teams line up to continue a 45-year legacy and embark on the race of their lives. Winning the Volvo Ocean Race will mean dominating the opposition over 9 months under continuous competitive pressure, 45,000 nautical miles of intense racing. The course starts in Alicante, Spain, and circumnavigates the globe, broken into 11 legs across the world's most treacherous oceans, before finishing in The Hague. Each team competes in one designed Volvo Ocean 65 boats, state-of-the-art carbon fibre racers capable of sustaining speeds of over 25 knots. They're identical in every way, creating a level playing field, so winning will come down to the skill and determination of the sailors racing them. One of the pre-race favourites was the Spanish team Mafre. They're polished and prepared after a year-long build-up. Skipper Xavi Fernandez bears the weight of national pride. No Spanish team has ever won the race in 10 attempts. His goal? To change that.
Winning this Volvo Ocean Race will be very, very important for me personally, for the team and for the whole country. We will fight every day to try to win this race.
China's Dongfeng race team were both underdogs and surprise package in the last edition, finishing 3rd. Charles Cordrelia returns as skipper with a singular aim, victory, arriving to start day with the most on-water training time.
The preparation of the race, I think, is the key. I think if you want to win, I think 50 or 60% of the job you do it before the race. It's not about money, it's about time. And even if you have a lot of money, you can't buy time.
The first team to enter was led by a race veteran making his debut as skipper, Simeon Teampoint, with Team Axonabel from Holland. He took the bold step of sacrificing time on the water pre-race to build a new boat, coming in as the young gun, eager to succeed.
When I finished the race with ABN AMRO 2, I was 23 at the time. Wow, this has been a thrilling experience, and I want to do this race again, and I really want to win it.
Another Dutch entry saw the return of Team Brunel, with obsessive skipper Bauer Becking back in charge, a man who has spent 3 decades attempting to win the trophy. His best result? A 2nd place in the last edition.
Yeah, this will be my 8th attempt to win the race, and up to now I've been beaten in all the races. Even that we got very good and satisfying results, but a winning will be a really nice icing on the cake.
2 returning co-skippers are Charlie Enright and Mark Towell from the US. New kids on the block last race, they're returning with a new team sponsor, Vestas 11th Hour Racing. The aim? Capitalise on their experience.
There's always a drive to come back and improve, and that's a collective one between Mark and myself, but also a personal one that kind of burns inside me.
The only female skipper in the race is at the helm of a new team, Turn the Tide on Plastic. Dee Kafari sailed in the last edition as part of an all-female squad and has a resume loaded with round-the-world passages. This time she's leading a team made up largely of under-30s, many of whom have limited or no offshore experience.
They actually have no idea what they're letting themselves in for. And that's a huge responsibility on my shoulders. I know they're going to be scared at times. I know they're going to be worried at times. I'm actually quite excited by it because they don't know to be afraid.
Completing the lineup was Team Sunhunkai Scallywag, the first ever campaign from Hong Kong. Seen as the wild card of the fleet by some, skipper David Witt, a self-styled maverick, had been dreaming of entering the race for 20 years.
As far as the team goes, I think we're generally a bunch of mates having a crack, you know. Everyone's there for each other, and we've got some pretty talented guys, and time will tell.
For all the crews, start day should have been full of excitement and anticipation. But before dawn broke, a solitary figure on board Team Axonabel painted a very different picture. Simeon Team Point was first to enter 2 years earlier and should have arrived at the start in Alicante the best prepared. But just 1 week before, he was replaced as skipper following a dispute between sponsor and the team's management company. In a turbulent week, an arbitration process led to the reinstatement of Tien Point, regaining his role as skipper on the day of the start.
That week, of course, was highly emotional, and I think especially for the guys that were working for me, it was highly emotional of what was happening with their future. And the majority of the team was there. The short team did an unbelievable job to make the boat ready, but the only thing is that we were one guy short.
His return had come at a cost. 3 of his most experienced crew elected not to join him just hours before they set sail.
Last moment we got Antonio from Scallywag, and he was more than happy to come on. So just when the ceremony started, he pulled one shirt off and put the Axonabel shirt on, and when we were all on board and the Dockout song started to play, I told everyone, this is the moment we're going to enjoy. This is the moment that we can put everything besides and do what we really love.
For all the sailors, starting the Volvo Ocean Race was a milestone in their careers. For them, it's all about winning, and straight out of the gate at the start of leg 1, every team was hungry for victory.
It's great, you know, it gives you butterflies. You know, I grew up in the States, practicing shooting free throws in a basketball game with like no seconds on the clock. It's kind of like that moment. It is all a big sport, for sure.
This is it, 7 polished professional teams pushing every inch to win. The gun is gone, and that is a great start. Get inside these guns to be on. Only run them along. Come on up. Stop it now. 45,000 miles of depressions, cyclones, doldrums, battling the elements. This is the test of sailors, adventurers, and racers. This is the start of the Volvo Ocean Race.
The first night of the first leg of the Volvo, so ready to keep on going.
Leg 1 was a relatively short 5-day sprint to Lisbon, Portugal, a gentle warm-up compared with what was to come. Vestas 11th Hour Racing immediately showed good form and took the first win.
You can't ask for a better start. You know, it's a 45,000 mile race of which we've sailed 1,500 miles. You know, luckily for us, we've been awarded 10% of the points you know, for that small chunk of sailing. But we'll take them and learn from it what we can, and then again, just get back to work, and you know, the focus is on leg 2 now.
It was then down to Cape Town, South Africa, a 3-week, 7,000 mile dive into the Southern Hemisphere.
The forecast is wet and wild.
Mafre's pre-race training paid dividends, powering into Cape Town first. But the rookie crew, on board Turn the Tide on Plastic, had their eyes opened in their debut to real offshore racing.
Water everywhere, walls of water washing the crew off their feet, and everyone was like, wow. They didn't believe how wet and how full on it was straight away.
We took windward to go and get the halyard to tie it off, and just as the wave came, the wave took me out.
They were close to being broken on this leg, and that was an easy leg. And the next 2 legs are big legs back to back, and if they don't recover now, they're literally just going to get worse and worse, if you know what I mean. So mentally is half the battle.
Leg 3 was the first double points opportunity and saw the fleet head to Melbourne. To get there, they would have to descend into the infamous Southern Ocean for the first time, a place where the race forged its reputation.
Those Southern Ocean legs give an extra dimension because you're so far from land. You're in a vulnerable spot, but also in a little bit of sailing paradise.
It's usually a very bad sea state because a lot of current, big wind, big wave, and it's one of the toughest legs of the Volvo Ocean Race.
Immediately, it lived up to its reputation and started to take its toll.
Right now I cannot do nothing with the arm. Pretty painful.
It's like a burning pain. I was on deck grinding on the aft pedestal and a big wave came and it pushed me into the guard wires at the back. At the moment I just can't really walk on my right leg.
And it wasn't just the human cost. The boats were battered by an unforgiving and relentless ocean. Despite a turbulent start back in Alicante, Team Axel-Nobel had been doing well. They were in the mix with the leading boats, but then the Dutch team were dealt another blow.
We had a jibe on in pretty hard conditions and had a bad one. The worst part is we've pulled the track off the back of the mast.
Leg 3 was over for Tienpoint's team.
Probably the toughest moment was when the first repair didn't work and then it's still blown 45 knots. Those are the moments that you have to run, I guess, a little bit harder than the rest and really take it on.
After the first 3 legs, it was clear that a pattern was beginning to emerge. The teams with the most experience and best prepared were dominating the leaderboard. Mafre, Dongfeng Race Team and Vestas 11th Hour Racing were all returning teams from the previous edition and looked strong. Mafre had taken their second line honours. Their dream of becoming the first Spanish team to win the race was taking shape. But skipper Xavi Fernandez was characteristically pragmatic.
It's been a super good leg for the leaderboard, and I know that the points we are taking now, they are very important, but the biggest mistake we could do is just to think that we're going already in the good direction and the others are fighting for the second.
I think we can clearly see that maybe 3 boats have a bit of advantage, but this advantage is going to be less and less important, I think, because we have smart guys against us and they are going to improve during the race.
Despite veteran Bauerbecking's 30 years of offshore experience, the start of the campaign was worrying for Team Brunel, only mid-fleet by the end of leg 3.
We just don't know where the issue is and we have to look again really deep into all the options, how we can improve.
3 days behind the leaders, Team Axel-Nobel limped into Melbourne, facing a race against time to get their boat repaired and ready to make the restart to Hong Kong.
It was a tough leg for us as a team mentally. You know you're in a weak position competition-wise. Yeah.
The first 3 legs of the 2017-18 Volvo Ocean Race had seen the teams with the most experience and preparation rise to the top. Mafre, Dongfeng Race Team and Vestas 11th Hour Racing were first to third. Newcomers with less experience were still finding their feet. The first foray into the Southern Ocean had been unforgiving, and unprecedented crew changes were announced across the fleet. Tight deadlines loomed for some of the teams after sustaining damage, amongst them Team Axel-Nobel, who were under pressure to fix their mast track.
It's tight and with any unforeseen issues, and right now still there's the rest of the rig to inspect after what it's been through, but right now time on distance it looks pretty good. But again, you just got to one step at a time.
Leg 4 would see the fleet head from Melbourne to Hong Kong, a new host city for the race, and for the first time a Hong Kong-based entry, Sun Hung Kai Scallywag. The 5,600 nautical mile leg would be the Privateer Challenge's most important. The team skipper, David Witt, only managed to finalise his entry 3 months before the race start. But despite the lack of lead time, Witt was confident.
Everyone's going to say that we're no chance because, we're not Dongfeng, we haven't been sailing together. But when it comes down to it, the guys that are sailing on the boat on Scallywag would have done as a team together way more miles than these boys together. They're all good sailors, but they're all still coming together as a new team. We've been going for over a decade, and that's actually going to be a big advantage over the other teams and why I think we're a seriously real chance to win the race.
The core of Witt's team form a tight-knit outfit that also race on his sponsor's 100-foot Supermaxi under the same Scallywag name. Many of his crew, close friends.
Known David on and off for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, and ever since then we've pretty much done every Hobart together. We've talked about him doing this race his way as a skipper, and he's gone out, worked very hard to raise the backing and get himself in a position where he can come here with his own team and do it how he'd like to do it. And now we're up here doing this, so just another adventure with Mr. Witt.
But things haven't gone as expected for the Scallywag team in the opening stages. Off the pace in the first 3 legs, 5th overall, Witt's pre-race confidence was now on the wane.
It's a new place for the team to be in, right? We're getting our head kicked in, becoming a little bit embarrassing, which is bloody hard this race. And the opposition are bloody good.
And it seemed that their performance wasn't improving. More than a week into leg 4 to Hong Kong, the overall race leaders Maffrey were out in front. The Scallywags last, 30 miles behind. Witt's dream of arriving first to his home port was now in tatters.
We're more worried about trying to find a passing lane between here and Hong Kong, because we can't finish here into Hong Kong. Story of the Scallywag life, all or nothing here at the moment.
So we just came to the conclusion that the weather routing was a fugazi, it wasn't real, and we would basically try and sail VMC, so we would sail as fast as we can to Hong Kong, and then, well, we just got stronger and stronger.
Within 72 hours, what had initially looked like an audacious move had worked. Sun Hung Kai Scallywag had turned the tables on the entire fleet.
Sun Hung Kai leading.
Hey! Who's the leader? Who's your daddy?
Basically, the only way we're going to lose it is if we park up and stop.
Out of the way! Can you see him best?
You see the yellow in the line of this yellow?
It was a millisecond and I looked and kind of knew that there was a wave coming, and basically just threw me off. Just got caught off guard pretty much.
Can you see him?
No, it must be here. I got a ping in.
We lost him, couldn't find him, and seriously couldn't find him for quite a few minutes.
Scan the 100 metre left and right.
Hold, just hold.
You're doing 20 knots, so the boat can potentially sail miles away from you pretty quickly, so you can become out of sight in seconds, really.
He might be below us.
Where? Okay, stand by attack. On the runners. He's a runner. Keep going, shaking. Now watching it, don't take your eyes off him.
I'm watching.
Up there. Okay, engine on. No. Hey, Tristan, on the transom. Show me the line, son. Show me the line. Help. Okay, throttle, go.
Get the line in. Starboard tack. Starboard runner on design.
And I think it just showed everyone how hard it is to actually see the guy in the water. You know, you wouldn't want to be trying to do it in 20 knots in the dark. I don't think you'd find him, you know.
Got more worried about it once we got him back on, and you realise how it could have very easily gone the other way.
More knots wind and black, you're dead. Okay?
It was a close call, but despite losing time performing the recovery, they still retained their lead as they approached the finish line into Hong Kong. It had been a roller coaster ride for the Scallywags, but they took their first leg win, and David Witt had achieved a milestone in his career.
If you had to pick a leg to win, this is the one we wanted to win. This is what our whole program was about. There is no bigger than this in my career. This is awesome. Have a 20-year dream to have your own team and then win a leg, and then win a leg for your backers in your own country, you know, in your own stop. Doesn't get any better, mate.
While the celebrations continued on the dock, 30 miles offshore, the battle for second was drawing to a close. Vestas 11th Hour Racing were on target to finish ahead of Dongfeng Race Team as well as Mafre, and were also poised to jump to second overall. It was a remarkable achievement, even more so given Charlie Enright had not been able to sail, meaning team director Mark Towell had stepped into the skipper's role.
You guys are sailing well, certainly out of the blocks hot, and then it looks like finishing strong, so you can't ask for more than that.
We've been on the boat for 19 days, right? And here we are trying to plan our last sail change to sail the last hour and a half to the finish, cash in on another podium finish, and all of a sudden you're in a whole new reality.
This is the Vestas 11th Hour Racing. We are on a collision with a fishing vessel. The other vessel is potentially sinking with people in the water. Assistance required.
Overheard Vestas on the VHF saying that they've had a collision with a fishing boat. We don't know what the situation is at the moment.
Fellow competitors Team Axonabel and Dongfeng Race Team were following close behind.
Vestas is quite badly damaged.
They require medical assistance for the people on the fishing boats.
Sorry, it's Volvo Race team.
We can see you on the AS. Do you want us to come and rescue you?
I think we can sail to them, yes.
There were 10 people on the fishing boat. The fishing boat has sunk. 9 people were rescued by Vestas. 1 person has been rescued by the helicopter.
After hours of extensive search and rescue by the sailing team, as well as the Chinese authorities, all the local fishermen were recovered from the sea. Sadly, one of the men had lost his life. Their leg was over, their lives changed forever.
You get off the boat and you look at this massive hole and you can only imagine, what happened or what the situation is with the other vessel and their crew and all their families. And I know how difficult it's been for me and for our guys. I can only imagine how hard it's been for them. Yeah, loss of life is a heavy thing. It's a heavy, heavy thing.
From Hong Kong, the Volvo Ocean Race headed to Guangzhou to complete an import race. The visit marking the 4th time the event has stopped in China over the past 10 years. Then it was back to Hong Kong and back into offshore mode.
Here we go, the start of leg 6 from Hong Kong to Auckland, New Zealand.
Vestas 11th Hour Racing were absent, damaged and unable to compete. The boat shipped ahead to New Zealand for repair with the hope of rejoining for the following leg, but there was no certainty that they would be ready in time. The 6 remaining teams took 20 days to cover the 6,000 miles through the Pacific to Auckland, but it was the final 24 hours that produced some of the closest racing yet. T. Kafari's rookies on Turn the Tide on Plastic had come of age, fighting it out at the front of the fleet, but under constant pressure.
The nightmare is over my shoulder where we've got Dongfeng and Mafre now breathing down our necks. From being 120 miles behind, they've just caught up, which is just gutting.
Mafre and Dongfeng were demonstrating their pedigree, reeling in the leaders as the fleet closed on the Auckland finish.
Can't believe Dongfeng and Mafre there. No justice in that.
However, the 2 red boats were too late. Just minutes separating Team Axonabel and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag as they approached the finish. Simeon Team Point's Dutch team take their first victory, a euphoric moment for the squad, considering their earlier troubles.
It's unbelievable hard to win a leg. It's a little crown on very hard work over the last 2 years.
For Turn the Tide on Plastic, just 5 minutes separated ecstasy from agony. The team with the most inexperienced crew had got tantalisingly close to a podium spot, only for it to be snatched away within sight of the finish.
I don't actually even know what to say. So we went from deciding what colour step we could be on and our first podium finish to 5th, which is absolutely gutting because the leg we sailed was pretty good.
With 5 remaining stages, Mafre still held the top spot. Dongfeng in close second, despite not having won a leg. The privateers Scallywag with a surprise package, on a roll in third overall and a real contender.
When we turned up in leg 0, the level that Dongfeng and Matfrey operated at was quite daunting. Back then, they were arguably the 2 best offshore racing teams in the world at any level. But, you know, we're there.
Bauer Becking and Team Brunel were in trouble. A string of lacklustre performances saw them languishing in 6th. Becking's dream of finally winning the race in this, his 8th attempt, was fast becoming a nightmare.
I think we have to be very honest to each other. What is the aim? Just looking in the long term, I think if we start first looking at 3rd place on the podium overall, that's a very easy job. Let's say that way. We're only 6 points out from number 3.
Vestas 11th Hour Racing was another team fighting to rebound. Their boat was repaired in New Zealand during leg 6, a huge logistical task against a tight time frame. But whilst the boat looked like it was ready to race again, the question was, were the sailing team?
There's no formula for how to best deal with these things, so we've kind of let everybody do what they thought was best for themselves. And the result of that is that we came back together as a very solid group, respectful of the past, but also respectful of the future and the elements that we were about to face.
In the 3-week Auckland stopover, the entire Volvo Ocean 65 fleet underwent a full overhaul after 27,000 solid miles of racing. Boats and crews needed to be at 100% for what lay ahead. Leg 7, the longest, most treacherous of the race. 5,000 miles of formidable Southern Ocean. In low-pressure weather systems that prowl around Antarctica, ready to strike.
For me, the Southern Ocean is, you know, it's the best sailing in the world and the worst.
To barrel off a wave with 37 knots, 3,000 miles from the shore with water that's freezing cold. That gives a huge adrenaline kick, you know, and to feel that you're in control with uncontrollable elements of nature.
Well, here they go, the one they want to win, but the leg the sailors fear the most around Cape Horn to Itajaí, Brazil.
After the Auckland restart, the fleet dived directly south to the edge of an ice exclusion zone before pointing their bows towards Cape Horn, a daunting 4,500 miles away across one of the most isolated oceans on the planet. Its inaccessibility means our understanding of the area is limited scientifically. So when Volvo Ocean Race teams pass by, it's a rare opportunity to gather some precious data.
So this is our alien, our drifter boy. He weighs 20 kilos and we're about to deploy him into the Southern Ocean, where he's basically going to become a satellite for the ocean. And he's going to measure sea temperature, ocean swell heights and currents. He's going to work for about 400 days. And he sends real live data back to the scientists from NOAA based in Miami, Florida, and they will be able to predict better, more accurate forecasts.
So this is our microplastic analyzers. It's a series of filters that as the water goes through it, it traps any microplastics. We change the filters every 2 days, so we're up for a filter change at the moment. This is the first time a microplastic analyzer has been installed on any vessel. We had it running down in the Southern Ocean and it was pretty scary, the data that came back from there. It was the first time that they'd proven that there was actually microplastics that far south.
As the leading boats powered on, Bauer Becking's 3 decades of experience racing through this formidable region was starting to show. Team Brunel built a solid lead, but the sea state was deteriorating as the Southern Ocean delivered its worst.
This has been the toughest crossing ever I did in the Volvo Ocean Race, because all the time that we were in the Southern Ocean we had 30 knots or more. That I've never seen before, but here it was just game on every minute, every second of the leg.
The conditions continued to worsen. Sun Hung Kai Scallywag was struggling, 200 miles behind and becoming isolated from the rest of the fleet.
That night it got quite bad, and in my watch I made sure I did the majority of the driving, which I normally don't do, and I knew if we just got to daylight it'd be a lot easier for everybody else to drive when it's daylight. You know, it happened just as I went off the watch, you know, and I regret not driving for another 10 minutes for the rest of my life.
Hello, Race Control.
Yes, listen carefully. I have a man overboard situation. The person's name is John Fisher.
We've just plotted it as well, so this is the latest position that MRCC have.
We could not see any further than the first wave, you know, because it's breaking in the boat. So literally you've got 5 metres of vision. You know, you've got an hour till you're unconscious, and then you've got 2 hours till you're dead, basically, so every second counts. And then we've got to go back to the MOB position on the computer where we've hit the button when he's fallen over. And then we started our search pattern.
If you fall off with doing the Volvo Ocean Race, then it's game over. Even though we all train for it, talk about it, practice it, when it comes to it, it's whole nother thing.
People don't realize how small is a guy in the middle of the waves. You can't see him.
I was just trying to think, what else are we going to do? And I said to her, how long has he been in the water? And to me, it felt like about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. And she went 4.5 hours. That's the bit when I realised he was dead.
To go and say to my guys, you know, the news is it was Fish that lost his life and they haven't found him and they've stopped looking.
You know, when you know that the search has been called off, and when you read the words "lost at sea," it's hard. It's really hard.
You know, we've seen again this race how it hits everyone so hard when we lose one of our own. It's and there's nothing worse.
John and I were best mates, and it was John's life dream to do this race and do this race with me. This whole team has basically become John Fisher, you know, confident, quiet, spoken, the loyalest bloke you'd ever meet. Put everyone, the team and everyone before him. Fish was a one-off, and you know, if I could trade places with him right now, I would, every day of the week.
The Scallywag team retired from racing and made for landfall in Chile, still more than 2,000 miles away, their future uncertain. The rest of the fleet, still led by Team Brunel, continued to battle across the Southern Ocean towards Cape Horn, a career milestone for any ocean racer, but for Mafre, the iconic landmark wasn't the achievement they'd anticipated.
Got a little tear on the luff, and then 10 minutes later it's basically a split from luff to leech. So now we've got this severe damage, so we've suspended racing. We're heading to a bay to meet our shore crew, and we're going to have to try and get all fixed up in 12 hours and carry on.
It's quite tricky repair with the stuff, material we have here on the place we have to do it. But we're going to do all what we can and try to finish the leg.
For Mafre, rounding the Horn came as an anticlimax, their overall race lead now in jeopardy. For the rest of the fleet, led by Team Brunel, it marked an iconic moment in their circumnavigation.
Sail Ship Team Brunel, Sail Ship Team Brunel, this is Chilean Navy Hornos Control calling you, over.
Cape Horn is its own legend, the end of the world. It's patrolled by the Chilean Navy, who were on hand to escort the fleet past the famous landmark. Chasing Team Brunel was a group of 5 boats led by Vestas 11th Hour Racing. The fleet had made it to the relative safety of the lee of Cape Horn after one of the most demanding Southern Ocean passages in the race's history.
Is everybody in a safe place back there?
I was in my bunk and I heard a big bang and I heard the boat violently heel to weather, and instantly I knew what had happened. Unfortunately, instantly I also knew the consequences of what had happened.
We can't really overcome this one now, but we can make a plan to go forward and try our hardest to keep in the race.
The Vestas crew head for the Falkland Islands in the southern Atlantic. Their retirement meant that they had scored 0 points in 4 consecutive legs. What had started as a potential race-winning campaign was once again in trouble.
When the rig fell down, it was disbelief. You know, you got to be kidding me. You know, just it's unfair. But at the same time, it's what can you do?
After nearly 3 weeks of arduous racing, Team Brunel capitalised on Mafre's misfortunes and just managed to hold off Dongfeng Race Team in a duel to the finish. The win was their first, a vital victory that saw them vault from 6th to 3rd in the overall standings. But after the loss of John Fisher, it was a bittersweet moment for the veteran Bauer Becking.
Ja, lekker. Lekker maar triest. Natuurlijk met John. Sorry. Dat zit er diep in.
In a feat of seamanship, Mafre's running repairs to their mainsail enabled them to keep sailing to finish 5th. But to rub salt in their wounds, Dongfeng Race Team's second into Itajaí meant the Spanish team relinquished their hard-fought overall lead.
Pressure is back on us, and we are only, today we are only 1 point ahead, it's nothing.
It's not ideal, it was a very important leg for us. In the other side, Dongfeng did second and didn't get the point in the Cape Horn, so, things could be worse.
Back in the Falkland Islands, Vestas 11th Hour Racing had to be equally as pragmatic, using their ingenuity to keep themselves in the race for a second time.
Fortunately for us, the mast fell down when we were only 100 miles from the Falkland Islands. We engaged in a logistical nightmare to get the boat to Brazil and a position to start the next race and sail into our home port.
Once again, Enright's team raced the clock to rejoin the fleet before the next restart, arriving to Itajaí under a jury rig and motor. They were followed a few days later by Sunhunkai Scallywag. Both were sailed by delivery crews. The arrival of the Scallywag boat was an emotional moment.
We had basically all the other boats, crews there, all the Volvo staff there, everyone carrying every sail, every bit of gear off. We had other teams washing our wet weather gear down, we had other teams working on our boards. It was fantastic. It's what the race should be about.
With just 48 hours to the start of the next leg, David Witt and his team made the difficult decision to continue racing, in John Fisher's honour.
If he was standing behind me right now, he'd be telling me to harden up. Don't be soft and get on with it, and that's what we're going to do on Sunday.
$5,700 nautical miles from Itajaí in Brazil to Newport, Rhode Island. It's go for the entire fleet.
Throughout Volvo Ocean Race Leg 8, it seemed that Team Brunel had begun to find their mojo. Along with race leaders Dongfeng Race Team, the Dutch campaign dominated the leg to Newport, only to be trumped by Mafre in the closing moments. Brunel had come tantalisingly close to another leg win. The consolation, they had gained more valuable points.
I think we're still properly in contention. Of course, the loss over here was a loss of 2 points. It would have been nice the other way around, but we know there's 3 legs to go. We've seen stranger things happening in sailing, and it's not over until we are in The Hague.
Leg 9 from Newport to Cardiff in Wales was the last long passage of the race. The transatlantic sprint also the last double points opportunity, and as the fleet punched out into the Atlantic, Team Brunel shot back into the lead once again.
Taking the southerly route, and the 2 red boats took the northerly route, so ideal scenario for us, because if the southerly route is paying off, that means that we beat the 2 red boats.
Massive split 24 hours into this leg. It's a little bit of a worry that Brunel's got separation from us. It's just one of those things, you've got to sail the wind you've got, and we've done that, and we'll have to just wait and see how it sort of plays out through this lighter transition.
As wind speeds increased, boat speeds shot up, creating near perfect conditions for clocking up high mileages.
It's fast and furious, speeds in the mid-20s. We've got some good fast drivers on board and who like to send it, and this is the perfect conditions for that.
5 of the 7 teams beat the old 24-hour record in the Volvo Ocean 65 class, but it was Team Axel Nobel who shattered it.
With such a pace, that you can hardly keep open your eyes, and then big waves breaking over the deck every time you do a nosedive. After 4 hours watch, you're inside. You just look at each other to your watch parties like that was insane. That was just out of this world. We did 158 miles in 6 hours, and that's basically when I realized we're probably going to set a record here.
Simeon Team Point and his crew had also eclipsed the outright record set by the more powerful Volvo 70, achieved by Torben Grails Ericsson 4 a decade ago. The new figure to beat, 602.5 nautical miles.
Last record in the Volvo Ocean Race had been for my father, so now we have some things to talk on the dinner table.
Team Axel may have been the fastest boat, but it was Bauer Becking who took the vital double points win into Cardiff. Team Brunel looked unstoppable, and what had been a two-way battle for the trophy was now three.
Brunel is very good since a few legs. They gain confidence, they have nothing to lose also, so they were very aggressive. It's going to be a nice fight, I think.
Donphan is 1 point ahead, and Brunel is right back 2 points behind us, so three of us are now fighting all the way to the end for this Volvo.
When we left Newport, we knew there was one task, and that was actually beating Dongfeng and Mafra over the line, because then the chance was still open. Mission accomplished in that sense.
All three of the leading teams knew that a good result on the penultimate leg from Cardiff to Gothenburg would be essential to keep their hopes of victory alive. The relatively short 1,300-mile leg was intense from the start, with multiple lead changes. It was full of dramatic scenery, the fleet skirting the stunning and rugged coast of Ireland before heading over the top of Scotland. Despite being last at the halfway mark, Brunel staged an incredible comeback, kicking into high gear across the North Sea, overhauling both of their rivals.
Well, Brunel came from behind. Obviously, they had an edge, and that's why they passed not only us, they passed Axel first, then Donphan, and then they came all the way to us. It is worrying, of course, it is worrying.
Team Brunel had engineered a remarkable comeback in just 4 legs, now equal on points with Mafra and Dongfeng Race Team.
We knew what we had to do to have a chance for the overall lead, and that was first of all beat the 2 red boats. Of course, they will be thinking, why in the hell is it possible that the yellow boat is coming from being so far behind and now actually equal on score? Of course, that makes them wonder. So in that sense, I'm really confident, and I think we can win it.
The stakes were high. Who beat who out of the top 3 in the final leg would determine whose name would be engraved on the Volvo Ocean Race trophy. In the final pre-leg briefings, both managers from Mafra and Dongfeng Race Team did their best to convey confidence to their athletes and create a game plan to defeat a Team Brunel who'd clearly found a vital edge.
Let's face it, we're not very good to keep the pressure, so we're an outsider is great. Knowing that Brunel is arriving in a hometown, so we have to beat them.
I think Shabby and the rest of the crew are, better at handling these sort of high-pressure situations than the other teams. So I'm comfortable that going in with equal points, and we've got as much chance of anybody coming out on top.
Of course, it's probably top of my career, and maybe the last time I will be in such good position to win. So we have to give everything, and that's what we are going to do all together, because we all know that maybe this is the only opportunity in your life we have to win the Volvo.
After 45,000 miles of racing, for the first time in round the world history, 3 teams have one final leg to go to decide who will be crowned the winner. There goes the gun.
The ultimate leg was just 970 miles from Gothenburg to The Hague via an inner harbour mark at Aarhus in Denmark. After 600 intense miles, race-long rivals Mafra and Dongfeng remained locked in a duel, swapping first for second place with Team Brunel in close pursuit. Ahead was the final obstacle in a 9-month, 45,000-mile battle. A number of race exclusion zones that needed to be avoided. The tactical options were to head inshore or off. For the top 3, it represented the most important strategic decision of the entire race.
We've chosen a path inshore, so it's a lot of very tricky navigation. We've got all sorts of sandbanks and traffic separation schemes, and some very changeable weather. It's going to be an interesting night.
I just went to see Pascal and say, what do you think? He say, we go east. I'm sure the other ones are not going. Say, it's not possible. Why they come with us and now they are going to change their mind? I don't know. We say, we will see. And the next schedule, everybody was west and we were east.
The Chinese team had made a calculated but brave decision. Turn the tide on plastic, and the Scallywags were the only boats that followed. Mafra and Team Brunel had stayed west and offshore. When their courses next converged, they would find out who would be right and win.
We were lining up to go on the inside, sort of down to Germany and across the beaches across the top of Holland. We made a late call to go to the west, and in doing so we split from Dongfeng, who were carrying on down.
We're a little bit surprised that Mafra came our way, and that actually gave us a bit of confidence even. And we just thought, okay, we believe in what we think is the right. You make a choice to be the right choice.
The last weather model came with, telling us where we were. It was better to go west, even if it was a little bit late. And Brunel was in the other side anyway, so we decided to come up and go the other route.
That is a bit crazy. We are sailing than 9 months, racing than 9 months, and it's only the 40 last miles of the last leg is going to decide who is going to win the Volvo Ocean Race.
At the final position report of the leg and the race, Mafra were in front. Team Axonabel and Team Brunel were chasing hard, whilst Dongfeng Race Team were trailing in fourth.
We are 7 miles behind and there is only 20 miles to go for them. So if you do a quick calculation, you say, wow, it's too much and we need to be 30% faster. So I wake up everybody and I tell, guys, you have 2 hours now to win the Volvo.
Everything would be decided on who arrived first to a converging mark just 5 miles from the Hague finish. On the approach, even the sailors couldn't gauge who was in front.
We can sort of see something through the binoculars, but we're not entirely sure, and we've got no idea how it's going to pay out.
There was so much boat in the water that each time we see 3 mats close together, 3 dark lines, so Mary will say, is there? There. I say, it's not possible, I don't. They must be maybe ahead, but not so far.
Yeah, that's them, 100%.
It was probably the worst moment of the race. You know, we raced with so much intensity these last 3 days. We still kept the hope. We had less than 10 miles to the finish.
Dongfeng bearing 76 in front.
Dongfeng in front?
Yep.
Everyone?
Everyone. Didn't go right.
We just knew that they would be ahead of us. So yeah, it was like, this is over, boys, no chance. Let's just try to catch Mafra again.
You know, you could see how pretty much the world was ending for everyone and just pretty much give up for the last 2 hours of racing. Of course, try to keep Brunel behind us and just deliver the boat to the harbour was pretty hard. Yeah.
An historic finish to an exceptional journey. Victory in the Volvo Ocean Race goes to China. It goes to skipper Charles Cordrellia and his team. It goes to Dongfeng Race Team. Charles Cordrellia and his Dongfeng Race Team had won in the closest, hardest fought finish in the event's history. Incredibly, it was their only leg win. They had achieved their goal, becoming the first Chinese team to win the Volvo Ocean Race. Carolyn Brouwer, Mary Rue and Justine Matru also became the first women to ever win the event.
The last 9 months, never win a leg. Always in good position at the start and fail. And as a skipper, it was really tough. I'm not sure I've been the best skipper, but I'm sure I've done the best team around me. I had a good feeling. I said, it's not possible. We can't lose. And we win.
I'm not sure we'll have a finish like that in the future. And it has involved so much people, so much time, so much energy that I don't think I will be able to give so much to a team another time, so I'm not sure it will happen again.
Mafra, headed up by Xabi Fernandez, had come into the race as one of the favourites. They had come tantalisingly close, but their dream of a Spanish victory was over.
The result is hard for us, it's very harsh and hurts. I think we've done a lot of things good, that's why we have to be happy and proud. But of course we have done mistakes too, and that's why we didn't win.
Bauer-Becking had returned for his 8th attempt to win and had staged a comeback late in the race that nearly saw him achieve his long-held dream. 3rd place overall was a respectable achievement, but was not what the veteran had signed up for.
There's winners and there's losers, and there's clearly only one winner, and the rest behind there are losers. So it's pretty harsh, but that's how it is. I can't change it.
Simeon Tainpoint and Team Axonabel just missed out on the podium, taking 4th, while Vestas 11th Hour Racing's sheer perseverance was rewarded with 5th. Tied for last were Turn the Tide on Plastic and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. A final import race in The Hague serving as the tiebreaker, and D Kafari winning the day to claim 6th overall, leaving the Scallywags in 7th on the leaderboard. For all of the sailors, completing their journey makes them part of an ongoing legacy that stretches back to 1973. It was about more than racing. Tested by the world's oceans and the extremes of nature, they now share a bond that unites them for life.
That's the Volvo Ocean Race experience. That will bond you for life with a group of people like no other will.
You have the whole team behind you and doing it together. And I think that is the key element of this race, and that's what makes this race unique.
The shared sort of emotional experience brings you closer together. You create bonds and friendships that are going to last a lifetime.
Yeah, this race pushed me more on the edge emotionally than physically, for sure, yeah.
I don't want to do this race if it's not at that level of where you're at the end of what you've got to give.
There is no doubt that this race changes your life. You are a different person by the end of it, for sure.
It inevitably changes you, as a person, mentally, physically. There's nothing like it.
I will regret doing this race for the rest of my life, because it's cost Fishy's life, no doubt. But I think when we finally get to the end, I'll be pretty proud about it too, I think.